Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Open Source Education Podcast. This is season 2, and as you know, we are interviewing professionals in the space, learning from them. There's also like the part where we might interview people who have no idea what open source is and just learn what they think about it. But today, I have an amazing guest with me. She's a registered nurse and a web developer based in Nigeria, fueled by a passion. I'm reading her bio now, so you can just see that it has verbs inside. Fueled by a passion for people and technology. She's on a journey to discover her niche where healthcare and the digital world intersect, while actively contributing to various open source projects. Debs was contracted as a web developer for OLS. She's dedicated to honing her skills and gathering experience, embracing every opportunity to share her enthusiasm about the projects that she's involved in. Debs is a research software engineer in addition to being a web developer. And she's an amazing community member of OLS, which is Open Life Science. I think in one of our conversations, she also said she's developing a curriculum for research software engineers. Is that correct? Okay, wait, no, let me introduce you, finish. Where I should correct that part if there's any need to correct. But yeah, she's generally an amazing person, and one of the coolest things I discovered recently is she graduated from school and she had like her arm filled with a lot of awards. So she's like a top flyer. Thank you, Debs, for giving us your time today and for being here.
Remind me to contract you if I ever try to run for president. Thank you, precious.
Yes,
Such high praise.
I'll tell everybody to vote for you.
So, how are you doing today?
I am great. I'm supposed to be asking you that question. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm good. Today is Friday, so genuinely looking forward to the week. I can't believe I'm at that point of my life where I'm not really looking forward to the weekend and end of work. So yeah, I'm looking forward to
Adulthood
the
can be
weekend.
rough.
It comes to its own things, but we're grateful. We're thankful for the life that we have. How are you doing?
Yeah. I'm actually fantastic. It rained heavily last night, and so I got in some good sleep, and I feel very energized to have this conversation today. Thank you so much for inviting me.
That's nice. Thank you for being energized today. It means I have a lot of things to look forward to. So yeah, when I was introducing, I mentioned the curriculum. Was that correct? The curriculum for the research software engineers.
Yeah, that's actually correct. And I'll be sharing more about that when the time is appropriate.
Awesome. So how long have you been in open source?
I mean, I'd say 2022, 2022, but it does feel like a lifetime in the best way possible. My journey actually started because of a university strike. So, when everyone else was pretty much panicking about classes being on hold, I was discovering this new world and figuring out open source. And well, here we are.
That's nice. 2022. How has it been so far?
Hmm. I mean, it's been new and very rewarding, extremely rewarding. The amount of connections I've made with really lovely people within this space since 2022. It's more than I could have asked for, to be honest.
That's really great. And like some of the communities that you have I think it's really fun meeting you at like overlapping communities and it's like, oh my god, I know them. And that's really interesting. Like it's really cool sometimes to just see how most people are connected. Right, you join a new open source community and you can see familiar faces. I mean, it might mean that there's very limited there's very limited resources because the same people keep showing up everywhere. But it's also sometimes a good thing because the familiarity is great. Okay, so
Yeah.
2022, 2023, 2024 is 2025. So give or take 3 to 4 years, yeah?
Yeah.
How would you
Exactly.
define open source? There's like the general definition which everybody knows, which is like making code or whatever you build, distributable, modifiable, and generally accessible to people. But how would you define open
Yeah.
source?
That's a really big question because literally anyone you ask would give you a different definition and they would be spot on. So, from my perspective, open source is like a massive global collaboration project where everyone is free to contribute, to learn, to build things together, whether it's code or doing documentation or research or even just ideas in general. It's basically about openness, sharing, and making things better for everyone.
I like that. Openness, sharing, and making things. I like that, but making things better for everyone. I think that's really great. So, what do
Yeah.
you generally do in open source? I mean, usually it's not out of place to see people who work in open source and work in different. You see, they can probably contribute as designers, as technical writers, project management. Sometimes, if the issue is open and it's like something that you can do, people generally wear a lot of hats when they're contributing to open source projects. But like, yeah,
Yeah.
what do you do? Like generally and in open source? And like, do you work full time in open source?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you were spot on when you said people in open source typically wear a lot of hats. I think that's one of the perks of being in this space. You get to try out a lot of different things. And as someone who is a little too curious for her own good, I find myself juggling quite a lot. So I initially started out as a web developer for OLS. We used to be called Open Life Science. And this was around 2022, starting as a, no, this is 2023 actually, the beginning, so February of 2023. And then over time, I grew to love the community aspect of things. So taking care of people, making them feel welcome. And so just in November of 2024, I expanded my role beyond web development to also be the community manager for my organization. And now I'm working on making open science and open research more accessible as well through the curriculum you mentioned earlier, through education and training. So I do quite a lot of training both for OLS and even for the carpentries where we teach people how to use software to do research. And actually part of my contribution to open. And so, open education for me this year for the next 13 months as part of my fellowship with the Software Sustainability Institute in the UK, I will be developing a Research 101 course, which is basically a curriculum, a self paced curriculum in different modules, teaching all the elements of research and then dabbling into research software as well. So I think it's really special that you mentioned it so early in the podcast. Thank you for noticing that.
I thought that was really nice, and I cannot wait to see. I don't know if people are allowed to see it right now, but I cannot wait to see when it's like published, because research software is not very common in these parts, like research training, open
Yeah.
research, even open science. I think it's like recently that I got to see the depth of it, but most of the time it's mostly just a general open science is part of open source, but that sector
Yeah.
is not very known in this part. So it's very great to see that. I really look forward to seeing your curriculum. And congratulations
Thank
on your fellowship.
Thanks so much. The curriculum is actually available and accessible online, and we're inviting collaborators. And I will
Okay.
link to that. Yeah,
I will collect the link from you so that we can add it to the podcast. Thank you.
fantastic.
Um so open research, creating curriculums, being a part of the SSI fellowship and working on such amazing things. what would you say throughout this, like as you have all these engagements, yeah, what would you say was one of the pivotal moments in your open source journey? Like, did it start just recently, or something happened like a few months or years ago that just sort of made you know that okay, this is the place for me and this is the trajectory that I'll be following for a bit?
Wow, Precious, that's an amazing question, and oof, that's a big one. So, one of the grandest moments for me, the most life changing moments, was actually meeting my organization OLS. This this happened in the most funny way actually. So
Mm,
there's a program for people who are interested in contributing to open source, and the focus of this program, the target is people from underrepresented backgrounds, and this is called outreachy. So
mm,
I contributed to OLS during the outreachy contribution phase,
mm-hmm.
but didn't make it through to become an outreachy intern.
Mm-hmm.
Long story about the strikes getting called off at the wrong time. and and so the next year, which is 2023, OLS reached out and I landed that first role as a web developer that I mentioned earlier. But I think for me, the biggest moment beyond that was actually stepping into the community management side of things in November of last year. It made me really realize that open source is just beyond writing code or making papers. It's more about the people, right? And that completely shifted my perception to how I operate within this space.
That's really great. And I think, side note, because of the outreachy part, sometimes there's this thing that happens where you join a community because of something and you may not necessarily get it that like immediately. But when
Exactly.
you stay, especially if it was like a great community, sometimes
Yeah.
staying can like open you up to like even better ways of contributing, right? And then you get to know the community more. You might even end up benefiting from the community and growing there really, really well. So
Exactly.
it's really nice to see that even though you did not like get into outreach as a contributor, OLS has been such a significant part of your open source journey. And then getting into the community side of it. That's so
Yeah.
cool because saying that people are is generally about the people is really great because learning that you can have a really great project, but if there are no people to like sustain the use of it, the project can fade out, and that's usually
Yeah.
very sad. So like having constant reminders or basically people who push for the communication and just getting everybody together is really great, and it's awesome to see that that's something that interests you and that you're passionate about, and it was also pivotal in your journey. That's really
Yeah.
nice.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Let me see. So, as a research software engineer, right, and as you're since you're like one of the perfect persons to answer these questions because you're creating a curriculum because you think that this is something that is important, right? Why would you
Yeah.
say? Why would you say this is something people should care about? Like, if you were, what's one of the underlying reasons why you're creating this curriculum? Because you could have all the knowledge that you have and decide to just continue working with this, yeah. But now you're deciding to share it and have other people get onboarded into this sector little by
Yeah.
little. So how would you say you? Why would you say people should care? And okay, the how they can get in would be part of the curriculum. But yeah, like why should we care about this thing? It's like why is it very important?
And so it's at the core of open source is the people, right? And you mentioned it so beautifully when you said that a project doesn't have to die because the person who started it has moved on or has other responsibilities or cannot for one reason or the other continue the project, that's we totally deal with the problem of the boss factor. So,
Mm.
which is them for what we just described. When we let other people build alongside us. And so I like this idea of co creation where you're not just building what you think people need on their behalf, but you're letting them be part of the conversation, letting them shape that tool, that software, that curriculum, device, whatever it might be. You're letting them build and giving them autonomy to continue when you're not there anymore, right? And you're also giving people the opportunity to grow beyond where they are currently. For instance, if OLS had never invited me to contribute to the work that they're doing, I wouldn't have discovered this part of open source, of community building on my own in isolation. And so it all comes down to the fact that we need each other, right? And since we're building open source for people, it has to be built by people as well. If we're not making it inclusive, then we're failing in the worst way possible. So
That's the tagline. You wanna make it inclusive. We're failing the worst way possible. Yeah, that's actually very valid. There's also the statement of if you're not being actively inclusive, you're subconsciously excluding people, even when you don't mean
wow,
to, right?
wow,
So that's very great. And I like the part about autonomy. Like even if you decide that you don't want to be part of a project anymore that you built, when you
mm-hmm.
make it open source and you include people into the build process, now
Yeah,
it's something that I like to say open source is for the people by the people. There are times when that definition doesn't really fly, but yeah, it's very great to see that even if they were not the start of the project, because they want it to continue, they can become like the life that makes it keep going.
yeah.
That's awesome. I like that you're passionate about open source. That's
Oh,
really great.
definitely.
Yeah. Let's see. Do you want to talk about like core themes in your book? Right. Research software engineering. What are we looking at in the curriculum? What are we expecting to see?
Okay. So the curriculum is designed in such a way that it goes from the very basics and then hits the climax of research and research software engineering. So in the curriculum, you can find things like understanding research. What even is research? What are the types of research? How do you formulate research questions? What how would you approach literature review, research design? And then we proceed forward to things like data analysis, research ethics, writing and presenting your research. Then the more advanced side of things would be project management, time management. How do you set timelines, milestones? How do you deal with setbacks and adjust your plans as necessary? And we also talk about peer review. And so, this is the idea of um, doing so helping others to review their research and vice versa, improving on research based on your the feedback you've received from peer review. And so all of that magic, and then we slowly extend to the other unfamiliar aspects, like what specifically is an RSE. So who is a research software engineer? Because a lot of people don't know, especially like you mentioned, Precious, in these parts. And that was actually one of my motivations, how
Mm,
little people know about research software engineering here. And I do feel like it's rooted in the fact that even open science is not that popular here,
mm,
and research isn't conducted as vividly as we would like it to be. And I feel like if people have this tool to guide them through the basics, then it would be easier for them to make that choice, whether they want to do open science, whether they want to become research software engineers. So that's basically what the curriculum will look like.
I like how in depth it is. It's really cool. And then adding sections on dealing with setbacks and like time management. Those are like the soft skills and quotes part of
Yeah,
working in open
exactly.
source. And it's nice that like both the hard skills as in like doing the core technical stuff and how to
Yeah,
manage the community around whatever it is that you're building or working with. It's very important because especially in open source and sometimes funding and general plans can sometimes be unpredictable. It's great to know how to work
true.
around them. That's a very comprehensive resource. I really cannot wait for it to come out. That's really great.
Thanks, precious.
Is
Thank
this
you.
like a singular work or you have like a few other people working with you on it?
Oh,
Oh
thank
yeah,
you
you
very much
meant
for asking this particular question. I will not miss an opportunity to thank the incredible people who even make this all of this work possible. Because like you said, it's a very robust curriculum and I would be crazy to think that I could do all of this by myself.
yeah.
So we're currently a team of five, all ladies, lot of girl power happening behind the scenes, and so we're making an open call, inviting other collaborators so we have diversity. Two of the collaborators live in Belgium, Europe, and we have a collaborator in India, and we have two from Nigeria. So that's our team for now, and we hope to expand that soon.
That's nice. I think you mentioned the open call and you'd be sharing the link with us so people who want to contribute to the project can look too.
Oh, definitely, yes. Thank
Thank you. Let's see. So you told us about your book. We're reaching towards the end. This has been so insightful. I don't think you've given us a definition of what a research software engineer is or who a research software engineer is.
you. Okay.
Give us like a
So the
very
thing
clear.
is, so I'm going to describe a research software engineer because if I try to give a definition, one strict definition, then I would be restricting the field to certain types of people. So a research software engineer can be someone who does a lot of research, but then they also spend a lot of time building tools for their research. Or a research software engineer can be someone who doesn't do that much research, but builds tools for other people, whether individuals or groups, to do their research, or people who are in between. So, for instance, you might not consider a designer a research software engineer, but in reality, if they're designing tools within a research institution or tools that support research in one way or the other, they are actually an RSE, a research software engineer. So, it's a really broad field and still a growing field. And Precious, would you consider yourself a research software engineer based on that description?
I wouldn't say yes. I don't. Well, I mean, no. Most of my work will not really require me to work on research. But there is, for instance, I contribute to the Turing Way, and there are these really cool. I think the Turing Way has one of the best descriptive designs I've seen ever. And
Agreed.
you know, and I find it interesting because when you were talking about designers that build tools that support research, it's very possible that I can now call. I think it's Scriberia that handles some of those
Yeah,
designs anyways, not all.
yeah.
So most likely I would have to call them research software engineers too.
It's funny that you should bring up Scriberia, Part of my secret wishes for the project is that we would grow to a point where we could use Scriberia the way that the Turing does to illustrate some of our modules and make them more accessible. So
That
who
would be
knows? Let's see.
amazing. That would be. I hope so too. I look forward to it. All right. Thank you for defining who research software engineer is. So if you're listening to this and you wanna explore it, a career in research software engineering, go check it out. One of the best places to learn from would be the Open Life Science. You can also like join Turing Way. Pretty sure I'll also Google some other places that you can join. I'm actually quite sure it's Open Life Science, and you can also reach out to
Yeah.
Debs. She'd be one of the best to guide you. We are at the end. Thank you so much for your
Oh
time.
no.
I'm so
Thank you,
sorry.
Precious. This has been really, really, really fun, honestly.
Yeah, thank you so much for the great thoughts. I have one last question for you.
Okay.
If you had, it's a trivia question. Would you rather read a book or listen to an audiobook?
Oh no. Don't make me choose. It's so That's a very good question. I actually do enjoy reading a book because then I get to hold it in my hands, smell
Yeah.
it. I experience the book more if I read it to myself, but I don't have as much time as I would like to read. So audiobooks are actually a good alternative that I find myself using more these days.
Ah, that's so sad. Sorry that you're not able to experience books the way you'd like to. But yeah, I generally relate to the timing thing, so hopefully. Well, I don't know. The older you get, the more responsibilities you have, but I hope that somehow some sort of balance is found and you're able to read as many books as you want.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah.
Do we have time to give a final word to
Yes,
people
please.
who are
I'm gonna
listening?
ask you that.
Okay. So, the community manager in me won't let you go without saying, if you're coming into open source, please do so with an open heart.
Mm.
And one very important thing is to try and read the code of conduct of any community you're trying to collaborate with. Ask a lot of questions because no one knows everything, and that's perfectly fine. And above everything else, please be kind. Seriously, kindness can go a long way in making open source a great place to be. So
Mm.
those are just my last thoughts for you.
Thank you. Yeah, be kind, because everybody there has their own lives, and I know that it can get
Yeah, exactly.
overwhelming. But yeah, thank you. Have a great rest of the weekend or the day, really. Have a great rest of the day. Have a great rest of the weekend. And
Oh, I will.
I wish you success in building the curriculum. Whenever it's ready, please let us know. And we'll be sharing out a call for people who want to contribute to the community or to the project. So,
Yeah.
yay!
Thank you so much, Precious. This has been amazing.
Yeah,
And
same
good
here.
job with doing this podcast, giving a platform for people to come and speak.
Thank you for accepting to speak.
I mean, I had to, you know where I live.
Ah, no. There is a public podcast. Oh my god, no. I'm not gonna have it. Alright, sorry. Okay, I'm
Right,
gonna let
thanks,
you go
Precious.
now. Bye.
You too. Bye.